never give up. I never give up. I never give up. Turn around.
Hi guys, welcome back to Neff Inspiration, my show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stephan Neff. Another fantastic day for an interview. And today is a fantastic day because I've got Dr. Ryan Peebles with me. Ryan is a man who has transformed in the most magical way. He has become his own guinea pig because here is a man who has gone through a lot of darkness, through a lot of pain, physical pain, emotional pain. And he found ways of changing that. Now, that is very close to my heart. Some of you know I've been a pain physician. I was in chronic pain management, which really defined me, which was my life for the better part of decades, until really I burned out, until I could no longer do this job because I took on far too much. But I've got a very detailed knowledge about pain management. But I have transformed. Ryan has transformed. So this is far from the normal pain management kind of lecture or pain management talk. Yeah, take 2 OxyContin, you're going to be fine. No. So Ryan, welcome to my show.
Thank you, Stephan. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, an absolute pleasure. Man, where to start? I guess we start early with you because ultimately no one sort of wakes up when they're 8 years old and say, hey, mommy, I know I'm going to go out there. I help people manage their life, their back pain, and I transform lives. What did you want to do when you were younger? What
That's
was
a
your
good
passion?
question. I haven't been asked that, and I haven't even thought about that in a long time. So I'm going to have to come up with something right now. I think... I remember as a teenager having visions of in my future owning a gym, which is kind of similar to what I do, but not like it was like a physical location. That was a teenager. When I was a little kid, I probably wanted to be like a sailor or something, always something adventure related.
Nice.
So yeah,
nice.
Those were my thoughts were definitely around ocean and adventure.
Oh, beautiful. Well, life can be an adventure, and it certainly was for you. But when you're in the kind of gym area, can I assume that from the word go, you were physically active and that you were actually hitting the gym, hitting the weights, doing things?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as a kid, definitely sports and athletics as much as possible. I actually started going to the gym and lifting weights at probably too young of an age. At age 13, I got introduced to a bodybuilder, and he became my personal trainer. And I was bodybuilding starting at age 13. And so that actually had quite the impact on my body, of course, and
That's
also my development of chronic back problems. So we'll leave it there. But yeah, that was a huge influence.
Exactly, because that was exactly where I was alluding to. Because when it comes to pain and when it comes to suffering, there are always two sides. On the one hand, there is of course physical injury, and so it always pays out to actually see what is happening. When I look at gymnasts who are starting at age 5 and bending themselves into pretzels and doing the kind of high and low bars and seeing their little pelvises smashing against it repeatedly. Boy, you just know that when they're in their 20s, 30s, they're going to be in trouble.
Yeah. Yep.
So here you go. But on the other hand, we've got also childhood trauma that we nowadays know, an intergenerational trauma that can lead very much to chronic pain and to suffering that is perceived to be very physical. Was there anything like that in your life?
Are you talking about an emotional trauma?
Yes, emotional, physical.
Yeah, I just took that test because I have a 5-month-old son, and I really can't think of anything. I've always thought there must be something, and I really haven't. Maybe it'll come out at some point in my future. I've got decades more for something to surface, but I really I can't think of anything that would qualify as as a point on the ACEs scale.
Perfect. That's really, really good. So that's sort of lying the baseline. And with that we sort of know it's okay. You're a young man who is starting maybe a bit early, and it's interesting that you say 13 because I was 13 when I was in a gang assault, and it was pretty much from then onwards. Within a month, I started training very hard martial arts. And certainly did my own physical trauma to my body at that early stage. So to a certain degree, we're actually very similar in our development there, suddenly throwing ourselves into massive exertions, 4 hours training kind of stuff.
And I was motivated. You're motivated maybe from the trauma that you know about.
Exactly.
I was motivated because I was getting praise and compliments on, I became this like very physically fit young, teenager.
Yeah.
And so I started pushing it even harder because of that.
Perfect. So it's either the carrot or the stick that drives us.
Right.
So, but this is obviously when you actually are growing and suddenly get that praise, it's incredibly powerful. And there you were. So far it's a hero story. Here you go from maybe a little bit of a pudgy young man to a physical specimen where Mr. and Mrs. Wright just think, ooh, that's nice. So what's wrong with that?
Right. I mean, to me, it was just all win-win until it caught up with me, and that wasn't for years. So, I was going to the gym regularly for, I'd say, good 6 days a week, and I had a workout partner, and we were lifting. By the age of 16, I had already been lifting for 3-4 years at that point. And so then that's when it caught up with me, and my back pain started at age 16.
What were you lifting? What were sort of your marks? What was the weights?
I don't know. I mean, it was so long ago, and I just care so little about that anymore.
Fair call. That's absolutely fine. It's just a lot of young men compare themselves, of course, and they can.
Yeah, how much can you bench press? Right?
Exactly.
My answer is I have no idea.
Fair call. And it doesn't really matter, but it's one of these things because a lot of people get, especially young men, get very competitive there. And obviously you were. But so then back pain came in. Where was this back pain? How did it feel?
Yeah, it was pretty like diffuse in the beginning. So it was spread out and just, felt now I have the knowledge to know that it was probably just muscular pain. I had just chronic tightness, and the muscle tension in my lower back it felt like guitar strings tension, and that it was the kind of pain you would call it ischemic pain, because there's just not enough oxygen getting to the muscles, not enough blood flow. And I think that's what I was feeling at that time.
How did you continue your story?
So, I mean, I think really the way that the lifting caused that, it was a gradual onset, right? So there was no physical trauma. There was a day when I tried to lift a heavy cooler and my back kind of went out, but that wasn't the cause. I'm a 16-year-old strong boy. That wasn't the cause of my back pain. That was the straw that broke the camel's back, to use an overused pun. But I think what happened was I was just lifting, I thought I knew what I was doing, but I think I was overdoing some muscles and underdoing others. And I created this imbalance in my body. And that the chronic lower back muscle tension was just a reaction of the body to try and restore that balance. And it was just uncontrollable amounts of tension and stiffness in my lower back muscles. I could stretch them, but they would tighten right back up. And I had this bulk all over my body that I think it was just, very well developed, and it wasn't perfectly balanced. I artificially created a muscle imbalance. And so, the pain went on for about a decade, and I could talk to you for hours about what that was all like. So yeah,
I think, and I think we need to go there, because ultimately here you are in pain, and obviously the very first thing you would think about is either a physiotherapist. It depends on where you are and how you're influenced, either a physiotherapist or a doctor. So you was probably slotted a bit into a medical system. What were sort of the diagnoses that were sort of bunted around? What were you told, and what advice were you given, and what kind of treatment options were given to you?
So the first thing I remember is my mom taking me to a chiropractor, and I think they took imaging because they told me that my spine looked like about the age of a 40-year-old spine. And so it's still, mentally has an impact on me. Right. I still remember them telling me that. And, I never really felt like chiropractic gave me too much relief. So I think what next came was physical therapy naturally. And I remember them also, man, it was so long ago, but I remember them being surprised at how young I was. And I just felt like I was different. I was too young. Physical therapists would often repeat to me, "You're too young for this. Like, what's going on?" And eventually I got a diagnosis of degenerative disc disease as a teenager. And so, you hear the term disease and you think that you have a disease, you think something's wrong with you. I've learned a lot since then that it's not actually a disease, but just increased wear and tear, just like any joint on your body, or even a door hinge. If it's not perfectly congruent, it's going to wear down a little faster than it normally would. And so I was told I had a disease. I think what I really had was just movement dysfunction from this artificial muscle imbalance that I created.
And that is very good. So very good to point out. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is that there are problems, medical problems, that can raise their ugly head even early in life. There are some degenerative disorders that can show themselves very early. Rheumatoid arthritis can hit you as a child, those kind of things. So of course you need to look at first, you need to rule out those kind of potentially life-threatening diseases that really truly are there. Too many people just poo-poo this kind of thing and think, no, I'm a tough young man, I just go through it, not realizing that they've got a bone tumor or things like that. So it is
absolutely.
However rare
I think that
is.
They had, I wasn't even thinking about that kind of stuff, and they must have ruled it out and didn't tell me, what you don't know doesn't hurt you, or something like. I guess if they didn't tell me about it, it was good news. And so
fair call. Brilliant. Okay, so there you were, told you're an old man in a young body. Great, get on with it, live with it. So great. What do you do when you're a young man? Live with it.
That's basically what I did. I did everything I could. Went to a lot of different doctors around Southern California. I switched PTs a number of times, thinking that every time I went to a new provider, I had the thought, maybe this will be the guy that'll fix me, or the woman that will fix me. And I had this sense of hope, and then you go see them for a little while, maybe 1-2 visits, and you're like, it's pretty much similar to the last one. And so, you stick with it till the end and discharge and go through that cycle again, go find another guru that's going to fix you. That's what I did I did that for about 8 years, like that, just searching for the guru. Yep.
How was your mental health then? Because pain and depression, they are just, congenital twins, kind of, fixed together.
I think I reached a low point after college. So I was able to I had back pain in undergrad and college, but I was constantly in physical therapy, and I was able to kind of mask the whatever pain or depression just through my friends and parties and alcohol and all the other things you do as a college student. It was after I graduated that I got home, and it was the great financial crisis. So nobody that graduated got a job. So I was at home with my parents and not much to distract me away from the pain. And that's where I probably reached a low point mentally. Not able to physically do the things that I enjoyed. I wasn't able to surf. I wasn't able to play basketball, definitely not lifting weights. All I could really do is stretch, and do light things, but not knowing, which ones were good still. And so, yeah, I remember being in a very dark place for probably 2 years, feeling like I was suffering with no end in sight, really.
Exactly, because that is such a common thing after you've seen yet another, you call them guru, or yet another well-meaning person who is trying to put their stamp on you and trying to help you. Now, were there things, or were there aspects of the different treatment modules or treatment models, shall I say, that have helped you? Was there anything? Were there blips of improvement? Often enough, there's a powerful placebo, especially when it is sort of handed out from someone who you find attractive in a subconscious way. Oh wow, he is a cool dude, and he says, "Well, we do that." And, I feel better. And then 3 months later, you're back to square one. Did you experience that?
Absolutely. That was pretty much the norm. So I was addicted to physical therapy. I was dependent on it. And it's interesting because you don't really hear about that. You hear about people becoming dependent on pills or even chiropractic adjustments, but physical therapy? If I was not in physical therapy, I felt like I was spiraling, and I needed to be going 3 times a week. And I could do that because I was under my mom's insurance, and she had phenomenal insurance. So I could just do that indefinitely. I needed the hands-on, I needed the massage, I needed the exercises. And every time I went to physical therapy, I had a good therapist, right? Because I was doing the research, I was searching out the good ones. I would feel good walking out. I would feel like $1 million, right? And maybe the next day I'd start feeling bad again. But guess what? I had another appointment the day after that. And so this is the way my life went. And it was, it was the times that I was not in PT that I would start spiraling. And I remember, it worked. And part of the reason I became a physical therapist is because I knew that it worked, and I wanted to figure out why it didn't last.
Beautiful.
That was my huge mission in physical therapy. It was like, something's right, but something's missing. And that was the thing.
Excellent. Oh, brilliant. Okay, then what happened? Because obviously you were in this spiral of better, worse, better, worse, better, worse. What was the breakthrough? So, was there one breakthrough, or what happened?
So every time that I got worse, I got a little worse than I was before. And that got to the point where I was unable to do my passion for about 2 years, and that led to the dark times. And the dark time led to, the rock bottom, where I was spending most of my time on my bedroom floor, just kind of like sulking in my pain. And that led me to the commitment. And the commitment happened when I was 24 years old. And I came to the point, the conclusion that I wasn't going to find my guru, and I needed to become my guru. And I already knew at this point, back pain was going to affect the rest of my life. So I might as well dedicate my life to healing my own back instead of looking for someone to heal my back. And so that was the day, that was the commitment. It's written down in my journal. That was the turning point. And so I decided to go to school, get some education, get some credentials. I applied to a master's program in kinesiology and got accepted. And I talked to who was my closest thing to my guru at the time, my mentor, who was my physical therapist. And he talked me out of going to that program. I was already enrolled in classes. I told him, I said, who knows the most about the body, from a physical biomechanics standpoint? And he said a physical therapist. Of course, he was biased. So I pulled out of that before I even started, applied to physical therapy school, became a PT, and I was really able to then go through physical therapy school from the inside with the goal of finding out, why does PT not work, instead of from the outside. And also with the perspective of how to heal lower back pain. I went through all of PT school just with that kind of single focus. So yeah, that led me to a much deeper understanding of the body, not the solution, but a big giant step in the direction that I wanted to go.
Exactly, because you got the knowledge, you got the deep dive into at least the framework of understanding.
I got the
body.
Anatomy and
Correct.
the biomechanics.
Correct. And that
which you need to know. It's a prerequisite.
Absolutely. And so many people, so many healers out there fall flat on the face because they have not got that skill, that knowledge. And then at times, meaning very well, maybe do something really stupid and recommend something really stupid to their clients. And so therefore, you actually did not fall into that trap. So kudos to you.
Yeah, I think that's really important. There's a lot to be said about that, because there are people who are amazing at, say, energy or something like that. But you really do have to have that background, because the one day you make that mistake, it can be very consequential.
Yeah. But also, I mean, it is, no one gets up and says, wow, I really want to stuff up his life. No, we all do it because we want to be there for the patient. And then to actually make a mistake, it can be soul destroying and can be really, really hard. So it's not just the medical, legal, or financial consequences of a mistake or of a malpractice in the United States, but simply the fact that we have failed a patient who we have taken on, our client, however you want to call it. You're so right. Cool. So to play devil's advocate, now you knew how not to do it. No, and that's unfair to all the physical therapists out there. Please forgive me, guys. Don't write in and say, no, not at all, not at all. There are physical therapy is so beautiful. The physiotherapist can do amazing things. And I work with them all day in the rehabilitation part of after surgery. So please don't get me wrong. But obviously, in your case, that was initially not the case. You didn't find panacea. You didn't find the magic cure, did you? Yeah,
and I think most physical therapists would agree. I mean, if not all, that it's, it works. It's effective. There's something that works about it, but there's a big gap in the ability for it to carry on beyond the 12 visits. When we discharge a patient, there is not a strong confidence that they are cured from back pain. Even though there are days when you can get them out of pain. There is a disconnect. And I think that would be, not offend any physical therapists. And there's a lot of physical therapists I went to school with that will outright say to me that they don't really know what to do when they get the chronic back pain patient.
Absolutely.
They'll say that behind closed doors, right?
Yeah.
I don't really know what I'm doing. So I have them do the typical exercises, but I know those don't really, cure the problem. While at the same time, they can be incredible at the knee, or acute injuries, torn ligament, and be, and you could be in the best hands being with a physical therapist for recovering your knee. When it comes to chronic lower back pain and some other chronic problems, it's not the best at everything.
Exactly. I agree with you 100%. So what is the answer? What was the transition? What was the transformation that occurred to put you now into that seat that you're sitting in today? Because obviously things have changed, and I'm sure there was not one single event that was suddenly where the clouds opened and the sun shone through into your eyes. No. What were the multiple eye openings, I guess, you had?
Yeah, and you're exactly right. It was a very gradual, boring process. But to make it interesting, the cure for chronic lower back pain, in one word, is education. The turning point was the day that I said, I have to become my own guru. I have to dedicate my life to healing my own back instead of searching for someone. And so that was not the day I cured my back pain, but that was the day I changed the direction that I was going in, from downward spiral to a small step in the right direction. And building on that progress in the right direction over a period of years is, to me, the best thing you can ask for, especially if you're in a bad situation like I was in. There's a lot of people in that situation. They've had severe chronic back problems for a decade or 2 or 3, and it gets really bad. So you're no longer looking for an overnight success. Every one of us was at one point, but there comes a day when you realize, okay, that's not coming. Let's look for a day that's a little bit better than yesterday.
Yeah.
And so you build on that. And that was, I think that's what I did. And the way that I did that was through constantly educating myself, exposing myself to different modalities and different schools of thought and philosophies. It wasn't physical therapy that cured me, but it taught me a lot. It actually led to many breakthroughs that helped me along the way. And it was through that exploration externally and internally in my body, learning and educating myself about my body through awareness and focusing on what I'm feeling, really breaking it down to master something very small, like the way that I engage my core, that then I can apply to maybe walking or bending or reaching. And so really zooming in on something that's very fundamental and mastering it has been a huge game changer for me. And it is the focus of how I help other people as well.
That's from a physical point of view, it makes perfect sense. And we are bad in that. There is this kind of boom and bust. We sort of in January, we all head for a gym or for whatever you've decided to do, and you do it flat out for 8 days, 2 weeks, and then it peters off. And it's that boom and bust, which never, ever gives you any kind of benefit. If at all, it might destroy you because you do a new injury, or you just prove again to yourself that you're a failure. So these kind of things don't work. But if you actually start figuring out what works, and then keep the focus on the basics, that is how mastery and how excellence really is created, by repetition of the right thing again and again and again.
Yeah. And I'm going to try to say this. I don't know if it's going to make sense, but the difference between, because we're all human. So you said go to the gym for 8 days and then you stop and then maybe do it again, right? We're human. We're not perfect machines that are going to stay committed. So no matter what, you're going to have waves, ebb and flow, boom and bust, and whatever you're doing. But the difference between going to the gym for 8 days and then stopping and then doing it again. And what I'm talking about is every time you go to the gym, you go there with the goal of learning.
Good. Yeah.
Learning something
Nice.
more about yourself, because that is the thing that you get to take with you the next round of 8 days when you get motivated again. But if you're just going to the gym and going through the motion of these same 10 exercises that you did before, and you don't have that perspective, that frame of mind to develop and grow yourself, then you haven't made any ground. You may even have lost ground because you don't get to take that learning with you. And so that is why I say that education, both externally and about your body, the feeling of the familiarity of how to operate this machine, is the solution to back pain, and constantly striving to do it in a better way.
I love that. Absolutely love that. Having said that, I want to bring you back to the issue of imbalances, of us often creating those imbalances. When you go to a gym and you observe young people looking at themselves in a mirror, they typically look from the front, looking how to look like that, maybe from the side a bit. No one looks at their lower back. No one looks at their... So you get these specimens which are brilliant here and nothing there. So, and that, whilst that is maybe a little bit exaggerated, it's not much exaggeration.
Right.
So how do we address these imbalances? And is there a motivation? Is there an awareness amongst PTs or amongst, when we say PT, careful, physical trainers is PT, but physiotherapists is, of course, something very, very different. So let's not mix the two together. But is there an awareness out there of imbalances being created? And how do we address that in daily life?
Yeah, I believe that, pretty much most, if not all, physical therapists will understand muscle imbalances. We understand posture. There are some naysayers out there in the industry. I would compare them to like the flat earth people that say that posture doesn't matter, and they're really out there. But there's always going to be those type of people, no matter what topic you're talking about. Yeah. And maybe the earth is flat, but you got to go by, I'm not going to go into that too deeply, but I'm going to assume that we can all agree that posture matters. Yep. And what makes our posture, what holds us in our posture, is our muscles. And when posture gets bad, it is related to an imbalance in the muscles and muscle tension, and that affects the joints, and the joints can get stiff. And I don't even remember the specific question you asked. So if you want to remind me.
No. It is where I'm going with that question is, yes, of course, there are the imbalances. And often enough, that is actually something that people actually realize out there. But then the next step from that is muscle activation. And actually the fact that certain muscle groups can actually go off to sleep. And you think, what? How? Yes. What? So, and I figured that was actually one breakthrough that I experienced when I went to a more holistic chiropractor. And he sort of took me through the things, and he said, lift your arm there. And he put some weight on it, and woof, my arm went down. And I thought, whoa, what the hell? And then he said, let me just push on there. Bing, my arm was straight. What did you just do? So those kind of things were amazing, and it taught me that things happening in our body that I was not aware of. Should we talk a bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember you kind of reminded me that the original question is, how do you correct the muscle imbalances, right? And so, yes, absolutely, muscles can get amnesia, where they kind of stop functioning, and there's gluteal amnesia. That's a term, that's a phrase, when the glutes kind of just stop doing their job, and the other muscles around it have just completely taken over. So the hamstrings are doing the job of the glutes, because there's overlap in almost all the muscles. The neighboring muscles have similar functions. And so when those imbalances get bad enough, a muscle can shut off completely. And so how do you solve these things? So when a muscle shuts off, other muscles have to compensate. And you have this muscle that is inhibited, no tension in it. It's just lax, right? There's always has to be an equal and opposite. So there's going to be tightness somewhere else. And so you have weak inhibited muscles, tight muscles, weak inhibited, tight, and that imbalance can stretch throughout the body. And so there's two real ways that I can see how to address this. One is the way I did it for the first 8 years. Stretch the tight muscles and try to strengthen the weak muscles. And this is playing a game of what's that game when you hit the gopher
whack-a-mole,
head? Whack-a-mole. This is a game of whack-a-mole. And you're really chasing your tail, and anybody that has experienced, chronic muscle tension and stretches those muscles knows that they tighten right back up. And so you just play this game, and you can try to restore balance in your body on the surface. This is what I would describe as the surface battle. Or the other way, which once I started doing, I started getting more lasting results, which is address it from the inside out. And what we've found, what I didn't find, but the original person that all physical therapists would know would be Vladimir Janda, is there's a pattern to these muscle imbalances. And he coined the term cross posture syndrome. And this pattern is predictable. We know which muscles tend to get tight. The upper traps tend to get tight. The hip flexors tend to get tight. And we know which muscles tend to get weak. And what I've found is that the abdominal muscles and the deeper muscles that are inside the core, the muscles very proximal to the spine, tend to get inhibited. And so I found that if you address that, go straight to the center of the body, and you activate those muscles, which you referred to earlier as activate. That's exactly what we're doing. That can start this like chain reaction where the next muscle, which would be the hip flexors or the lower back, they feel the stability of those muscles around the spine, and they can like kind of let go and feel safe to release a little bit. And so that tightness decreases a little bit if you address it from the inside. And guess what happens after those muscles release a little bit? It allows the next muscle, the adjacent muscle that's suffering from that tightness, to do a little bit better at its job. And so you have this snowball effect, and it really does seem to extend throughout the body if you just go straight towards the center rather than trying to stretch your finger muscles from, the farthest away muscles from the center are at the end of this chain reaction. They're the last ones. So go upstream. And
don't stretch your calf muscle when you actually need to work on your core. You're quite right.
Exactly. And the calf muscle can actually tighten up as a result of this chain reaction.
Of course it does. Exactly.
And does. I say can, but it actually does. That's right.
Oh, it's beautiful. No, brilliant. So absolutely, there's so much we can do by actually addressing the imbalances within our muscular body. And that's fine. But I mean, there are many other factors playing in. Which other factors did you explore in your own life, in your own transformation?
I found in my journey that as I got deeper into it and farther along in progress, that my focus shifted from physical solutions or the physical component, the physical pillar being the solution, more towards the mental and the psychological component being the bigger, more important pillar to climbing out of this downward spiral that I keep referring to. And so not only with the exercises where I shifted from looking at them as a physical movement or judging them or critiquing them from a physical perspective, I started really doubling down on my focus and my tuning in. Like I could close my eyes and do the exercises and feel the core engagement that was happening while I was doing them. That's a mental challenge. So not only that was happening, but I was also appreciating more and more the virtues of persistence, patience, which is massive, and all the other things that come along with these that apply to all life's challenges, consistency, the drive, the determination, the gratitude that is necessary to celebrate the little victories and the progress that you've made, so you don't get depressed when you're not farther along and where you want to be, but celebrating the little steps that you've made is those things are all the mental side, the mindset. And I think that's really, it's for me at this point is 90% of the battle is the mental. Yeah.
100% agreed too. Having said that, you can, it's all quite nice to focus only on the mental if you're actually neglecting the underlying physical thing. So I think it's so important that we again sort of stress if you are, it's well worthwhile to rule out nasty things. It's then well worthwhile to think that maybe other things, so not just cancer, trauma, broken bones can cause pain, but also psychological challenges either early on in your life or ongoing can manifest themselves in chronic lower back pain. So it is a good doctor or a good trainer, good coach will look holistically at that. But then again, we need to look a little bit further. Let's look at the lifestyle that you're living. If you're running ragged and you absolutely have got so much on your plate, you're working 16-hour days, you're not looking after yourself, your sleep is crap, you're drinking far too much alcohol, well, guess what? You will not give your body the time to rest and heal. It is the sleep, it is the calming down periods in your day where you allow your body to calm down. So we often live lifestyles and that are basically self-destructive, and then we wonder why we're in pain. So I think that is certainly something I would throw in there.
100%. Yeah. I mean, there's so many bases to cover and it's all encompassing.
Correct.
I have often told my students, and I deal with people that they perceive themselves to be in a severe condition, severe situation. And at this point, what I tell people is you want to throw everything at this. You want to give yourself the best possible chance to heal. Because for some people, this can be life or death. If you lose your ability to function and participate in life, that's really what it comes to. And so you want to throw everything at it. So we're looking at nutrition, we're looking at mindset, we're looking at physical, and you want to, at least for a period of time, try to be as close to perfect as possible. Can you, what can you be putting in your body that will help you along? Anti-inflammatory foods. Can you take any supplements? Turmeric, fish oil. What is it that you can do for this period of time? It doesn't have to be forever. It could be for 1 week of trying to be this week of back pain healing that I'm dedicated. It can get you over a hump and then allow you to be more human again and be the imperfect thing that we really are. and so, you want to, every possible angle and base and element we want to throw at this, and it can be looked at as a temporary thing if it can get you through.
I think I want to stress the importance of the nutrition at this stage, because the standard American diet is so full of omega-6, which are very inflammatory. The ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 is just crap, 25 to 1.
Yes, the SAD diet.
The SAD diet, exactly. That's why we call it like that. And I was putting myself as a guinea pig through that, because about 7 years ago, I was feeling run down and I had stopped drinking. I tried to do the right thing, but of course I was still a workaholic, and maybe I wasn't eating so well, although I thought I was. So I went to a nutritionist who I had always sent my patients to. So I said, come on, I'll put my money where my mouth is. Take me apart and we'll see what happens. And it turned out at that time my gut was actually pretty hammered, still from stress, etc. So I had leaky gut. I had food allergies and lots of inflammation in my body. So systemic inflammation. So he changed my diet completely, added some proper nutraceuticals in, and blimey. So once I got rid of the food allergens, 2 months later, my hay fever was much better. My energy levels were better. Chronic pain, a little niggling old shoulder injury, etc., gone. My hay fever, gone. Smelly feet, gone. A lot of things were gone. And I thought, what the hell? And that was really what was really the breakthrough for me, to see the power of nutrition. And nowadays that I've learned so much more about this beautiful web of systems within our body, starting with the gut. Nowadays, I know that I've cured my gut. There is no more leakiness. I'm looking after it, and I live such a different life. But without that actually seeing that, and with hindsight, it was like light and day. I have to say, far out. I could have done physiotherapy. I could have done seek help on a physical level continuously, but with the levels of inflammation that were going on in my body, it was so counterproductive. So on the one hand, I was trying to heal. On the other hand, I was pouring petrol on the fire. And so therefore, it's so beautiful. So what we can do is we can educate our patients. We can right now having these open discussions and can share our passion there, share our insights that have transformed our own bodies. You were just as much a guinea pig in your own approach as I am. And it's beautiful. I wouldn't have it any other way. That is how you learn. That is where you become the master of your own body. And you should be the master of your disease. You should know, and as a disease, let's say diabetes or ischemic heart disease or whatever has affected your body, you should know more about that than your doctor does. Okay, yes. Because you are in control. Don't stop being the bloody victim. Let's actually educate, and let's actually go out there, build a power team where you're the dumbest member of the team. So bring on people who can teach you from all around. And I guess that's where you come in, Ryan. That's where you actually help people who are stuck, who are struggling to make sense out of their life.
It's it's just an educational program. What I do, I couldn't agree with you more. I say guru, right? Be your own guru. Yeah. And the doctors that you see are teachers, and the root of doctor, docere in Latin, means to teach. So as doctors, if I would consider, I'm not a medical doctor, but I'm a doctor of physical therapy. My job is to teach about the body mechanics. And when I say be your own guru, I believe guru means darkness to light. Gu is darkness and ru is light. That's what you want to do. Darkness is not knowing. It's the uneducated, it's the ignorant, and the light is educating yourself. Go towards that. Bring in the knowledge and you will have it. You get to take it with you. And you want to address every area that you can. The solution to back pain in particular is not going to be one thing. I don't think it's ever going to be one thing. Nutrition is a factor. Inflammation is the root of your back pain
Mhm.
and of your diabetes and of your sickness and of cancer. And so eating anti-inflammatory foods are going to help umbrella term all over everything. It's a panacea. It really is a panacea. Is it the one and only solution? Probably not.
Exactly.
But we got to look at all the factors and
Exactly.
address them.
And I think that is so beautiful. So it is a journey, guys out there. If you're, there's a good reason that you switched on today here or switch into this podcast or this video, because obviously you're suffering from chronic back pain, or maybe a loved one is suffering. We haven't given you a magic cure. Yet we actually have, because we started with education and we started with connection. We started with actually telling you, yes, there is hope. That hope is not yet another the 20-second MRI to find something to cut out. And it's not just the fifth surgical opinion to really make sure that you don't need any operation. That can be of help to actually put your mind at ease, to rule out that there is something new has occurred, etc. So sometimes the most dangerous patients, as far as I'm concerned, are those patients who have got chronic pain, because then if something new occurs, it can be difficult to actually detect that. Everyone thinks, it's chronic pain. Yeah, oh God, he's there again. And then you oversee that there is a new pathology occurring, and he's fallen and there's a new fracture or something like that. So please don't rule out those things. But by educating and by going onto this journey and exploring how your own feelings, your own sleep, your own hydration, your own nutrition is impacting your well-being, how that then in turn affects your ability to maybe address muscular imbalances, how that then lifts your mood because you have actually done something today that makes you feel better. And that has increased your confidence to actually go out there, maybe for a little walk, maybe sometimes something you haven't done really for a while. And like actually, by the time you've blinked, you've done 5 or 10 things, small steps into the right direction that actually make you feel really good. Wow, I did that. How cool is that? And that is beautiful. That's powerful. That's how you recreate a life. That's how you create habits that will transform you into a different human being. And that's so beautiful. But it can be hard. And nowadays, for me and for Ryan, it's very easy to see where we want to go and maybe where we fall short of where we need to go. And that's cool. But we have got the education and the knowledge to do so. For you guys out there, you are probably a bit behind on that path. We are just a little bit further down the line. So if Ryan, if people gel with you and people think, wow, hey, this dude has got his act a bit more together than me, how can they find you? How can they get in hold of you?
I think probably the best place to go is just YouTube if you want to just expose yourself more to some of my teachings. I have tons of videos out there on all sorts of different back pain conditions and solutions, and a wide array of all back pain related content. If you want to cut straight to the chase and get to the most valuable content, I think it's a masterclass I created. It's 15 minutes long. It's free. You could just go to corebalancetraining.com/masterclass, and that will explain what I believe to be, with visuals and illustrations, the root cause of most chronic lower back pain conditions and what I believe to be the solution.
Brilliant. Guys, look down there into the description of the YouTube video and of the podcast, because all this information is down there. So what have you got to lose? Just click on it and expand your knowledge. But whilst you're down there, press the like and subscribe button. Maybe leave a comment on the YouTube video and tell us your own experience. Tell us what you found most intriguing on today's video. And share the love. Tell others maybe to check either Ryan out or check my show out, because we are here to make this world just a little bit better, one interview at a time. We are passionate about it. And so the more people can hear it and the more hope we can sow out there, the better it is. So, Ryan, thank you so much for being a show on my guest. Yes, you were a show on a guest on my show. It was beautiful. Thank you so much. You certainly made me reflect on some of the things, and I will check your YouTube videos out far more than I have already done. So, thank you so much. You enriched my day. I'm very grateful for that.
It was a pleasure to be here. I had a very enjoyable time. Thank you so much, Stephan, for having me.
Awesome.
And yeah, appreciate it.
And you guys out there, look after yourself and live with passion. Eh? Bye.
I never give up. I never give up. I never give up. Turn around.